Hello YouTube, Marty the Off-Grid Gecko here, and we're back for another exciting video. Ooh, exciting! So this is one of the hives that I just got done painting. The other pieces are in there, but I'm basically going to leave this over here. This is by the Shabin, so this is a good ways away, probably 100 yards from the apiary over there in the feeder. And I actually had part of this a little over there set up as a swarm trap, so I'm just kind of moving it over here where it'll be easier to manage. If I catch a swarm in here, I can just tape the entrance shut here, tape this little vent shut on the top cover, and then, you know, maybe wrap some tape around it to keep it all together, and just pick it up, haul it over there to the bee yard whenever I need to do that, assuming that I catch a swarm, which I might not. It's hard to catch a swarm for me. I don't have any comb, so if you have used comb or open comb, like, that's one of the best attractants for bees, because they look at that and they're like, oh look, we don't have to build anything, we can start laying eggs immediately. Bam, and they just zoom right in. But I might have to wait till next year when I've got some bees on rotation before I can really set up good swarm traps. In the meantime, this is a 10 frame deep, okay, so this is basically the biggest bee box that you can buy. And normally you'll want 2 of these and then honey supers on top. And they take these 9 5/8 frames that are quite large. These ones are plastic, pre-waxed. I would actually like to snap these apart and pull these little corners off, cut these off, so that the bees can have a penetration through the thing, but I don't know. I'm not going to bother with it for right now. So I'm going to put 10 of these in there, basically. And they have a little bit of wax on them, and they do have some bee smell on them, because the bees keep coming in, and I think they're trying to steal some of the wax off of these. So every little bit they don't have to make makes things a little easier on them. A couple in there, put a couple on this side. Now there are 2 rules of thumb on this, okay? If you put these in, the space is going to look smaller to the bees, and a smaller space they might decide that's something they don't want to bother with. If you don't put frames in, then you are creating a, what do you want to call it? You're basically creating the potential for them to start building comb on your inside cover, which is going to be messy, and then you're going to have to get some wired frames and transfer the comb over, and it's just a lot of extra steps, and I don't really want to be working with a pissed off swarm of bees long enough to go through all those steps, because I'm a new beekeeper. I need to keep things simple, even if I, miss out on a swarm. And then this is my magic bait. I just picked up another bottle of this. It's like $25 for this freaking thing. This is actually, it's Wonderside flea and tick formula, okay? The people that make this is basically water and lemongrass oil, so I'm sure I could have made this myself for cheaper, and maybe when the bottle starts to run dry, if the sprayer's worth half a damn, then I'll just reuse this and I'll buy some lemongrass oil and make my own. But for the moment, this was easy. This also has cedarwood, sodium lauryl, sesame oil, inert ingredients. So there's some things in here that might not be as attractive to the bees, but I've noticed they tend to like this, and they hover around it, so I'm just going to keep on using it. And so what I'm going to do is these middle 2 frames, I'm just going to basically do a little mist, and that should be more than enough to smell up the box and work as an attractant, and it kind of gives them the idea that bees have been living in here. So if it's good enough for other bees, it's good enough for me, that kind of thing. So the scouts will be attracted to that smell, because that lemongrass oil smells very much like a queen's pheromone, that she releases, or the pheromone that they release from their butts to say this is the spot, this is home. So what we're doing is mimicking that smell just to make it feel more homey. And then if the scouts decide they want to move in and they decide that it's the right size and it meets all their particular specifications, then they'll go ahead and move the swarm in. And like I said, at that point we cap it, drag it over there to the apiary and get it set up, and then I have a swarm of wild bees. So this is in principle how all my swarm traps work. Now I said I wasn't going to do anything to the bucket. I went ahead and put 1 squirt of this in there through the little hole in the front. So I'm going to see if any more bees are fluttering around over there today, because it's always been like 1 or 2 will check that trap out and then they promptly leave. You know, they look at it pretty hard and then they just move on to something else. So it's not probably the best trap in the world, but if they need a place to stay, who knows? Or if it's a small swarm, maybe. I'm going to try and get these centered in here, get them up nice and tight with each other, because these are built on a certain spacing. Okay, so that's the space the bees want in, then they'll build the comb in between instead of building it all on top. Top cover goes in. As far as I know, this vent hole goes up into the back, opposite of the front entrance. I don't know that it really matters, but that seems to be what everybody does, and that just makes sense to me, you know, so that circulation can go in and then vent out the back, and then you've got airflow through the entire hive instead of maybe only coming up through the front half. I don't know. We'll see. We'll pop that guy on there like that. And then I've got my new lid, which costs $20, so it's ready to go on top. And with the lid, I'll usually slide it back so that it doesn't close off that back hole. And then when I get ready to pick these guys up, I'll just slide it forward. That'll close that back, then duct tape everything, and then haul it over there to the apiary. That seems to work pretty well. And then I'm going to spray one more spray of this down here by the entrance. Just give them something. I don't want to put in any honey or any sugar water or anything like that, because that will attract robber bees, and robber bees are not, that's what that hive over there is for, you know, to get them up on the hill, get them fed so that they can go house shopping and not have to worry about food. This is a trap, so if you bait it, you're going to get robber bees in there, and sometimes that might work, sometimes it might not. I'm avoiding that scenario. I figure if robber bees are going to decide to go ahead and swarm and move in, they can move into the feeder hive that I have set up, and then that'll be fine for them. So that's basically 2 traps. Then we got the bucket in the tree, and this one over here is not working worth a darn, so I'm going to try and maybe build another something like this out of my other deep box, and then I'll put that somewhere else on the property, bait it the same way with the lemongrass oil, and we'll just see what that does. So that's swarm traps in a nutshell. There are other considerations. You want this to be off the ground, obviously, so ants don't get in here and other bugs. I want the opening to overhang a little so that stuff is not coming up and getting in. Basically, this makes it where only flying insects can get in. And aside from bees, there are only a few insects that are going to fiddle with this little door. Obviously, a bird or a squirrel is not going to try and get in through that little crack. Other things like that. Now they say face it south, face it north, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. Generally speaking, I think, and this is just reading a lot and trying to distill out what I can from what I'm reading and people's experiences, it seems like having a location that's easy to spot from the sky is the best thing, and having an opening that's facing an open area of at least 10 feet is a good thing. And the higher the better, because bees like swarming in trees, but if it's too high, then it makes it unmanageable to pull this thing and carry it. So I'm keeping all of my swarm traps rather low, just for my convenience, not necessarily for the bees. But this is sitting right next to a building facing out. This may appear like a roof or an awning, which bees also like to move into and build. So that may give them an advantage. It's a low traffic area over here. I rarely ever walk through this little particular walkway. I have to check something real quick. Okay. I'm transferring water, so I have to keep an eye on it. But when it comes to facing your hive, south, north, whatever, I don't think the bees care. So my philosophy on that has been, if you're putting it on a wood line, like face it toward the opening spot, the open area, the pasture or whatever. Don't face it in towards the rest of the trees. And you want to be somewhere where they can spot it. So a tree line, I think, probably works best because the bees know you can just follow this tree line, you know, when they're doing their waggle dance this far, and then look to your left and you'll see the box, and then just go down and move in. So that's their method of communication, giving directions. I mean, think about giving directions to somebody to get to your house, right? You're not necessarily gonna want to give them the fastest way to get to your house, following a bunch of little windy roads and back streets and side streets. You want to give them highway, main road, side street, house. And that's the same thing. So tree lines are like highways for bees. So if you build it right on a highway, they're going to find it a hell of a lot easier, and it's going to be easier for them to tell the other bees where it is. I think that's why tree lines work so well for most people, as far as a swarm trap attractant. And that's it. And this hive is pretty much ready to go. So I've got 2 deeps for this, including this one. And I've got 1 super. And then if I need to add on to this year, which I probably won't, then I can always buy more supers and more frames. But for right now, I'm working on getting 3 hives pretty much up and running. That's my goal for the moment. And so that's what I'm sticking with. I'm also going to put another super on the one that's over there next to the bait hive, because that's only an 8 frame, and I'm going to spray some lemongrass oil in it and just basically get all these traps ready to go. So when the bees are ready to swarm, I've got places they can move into if they choose, and if they don't choose, then I've got Russian bees coming in the mail. So we're ready to rock and roll. Wish me luck, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because I'm doing all kinds of cool stuff out here, off-grid stuff, shit hit the fan survival type stuff. I'm trying to get everything down to as simple and as possible, and sort of spend some time explaining the methodologies and ideas behind some of this crap versus just giving you a broad how to do this, it's the proper way. Like, I don't subscribe to that bull crap, and I don't expect you to either. So I'm trying to like put a little background information and put things in perspective more. So it makes my videos a little duller, a little longer, but hopefully more educational and informational, which I think is why people look for my videos. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment too. And until next time, I will see you later. Stay safe.